Hi and welcome to Omega 365 Next Level.
Yes, and in this session we will show you how to build your own registers.
Yes, and as many of you are aware of, you can design and configure your own processes. For example, technical queries, deviation requests, onboarding new employees, mitigating measures for risks, etc., etc. And when you do that, it's also possible to define which fields or attributes you need to capture during the process. And what's new is that now it will be possible also to design your own register based on these processes.
Yes.
So let's have a little look at how this looks like. So on my homepage, I have various registers. We have technical queries, risk mitigating measures, meetings, quality, activities, etc. And these are then based on these processes that we have defined.
Yep.
And I have the possibility to move around if I want to do that. If I want to have the meetings on top here, for example, I'll just put them up there.
And these are the registers where you actually have a responsibility or an action which will show on your homepage.
Yes, yes. And you will also see them in the menu, of course. So if I go to technical queries, I will find that. I might find mitigating measures, etc., etc. So on the home page here then, I can then click directly on the technical queries in this case, and I will get the technical queries register. On my left-hand side here, you will see the different queries that we need to deal with. Some call this request for information, that varies.
Yep.
That's also a nice thing with the configuration of possibilities. If the terminology that is used in your company is RFI, request for information, then you can just name it that.
Yeah.
So much more configurable than it has been before, for sure. So in this case, we have then a query, and we have the process on the right-hand side. These are the different steps that this one is going through, and it's currently on the response step. So this process is exactly the same as what you are used to with the workflow processes as from before.
Mm-hmm.
This is now tied to this register. And you have different filters up here, which is also, I'll come back to that in a few minutes,
Yeah.
how you can actually configure which filters that the end user should see here and which tasks that the user should see.
And the same with the fields?
Yes, so that's also nice because when you have a query, there are different type of information that you want to have compared to onboarding new employees. Then you might want to ask about t-shirt size, whatever, because you want to give him a t-shirt when they start in your company, perhaps.
A goodie bag,
Yeah,
always good to get, yeah.
Yes, and on a query, location, discipline code is more relevant, for example. So kind of then making sure that these registers are much more to the point for what you actually need.
Yeah, more specific.
Yes.
And then it's the process and the fields or properties which are defined on that process that you now can define as a register.
Yes. So you will see when I click on a risk mitigating measure, for example, then you get a different risk.
The layout of the grid?
Yeah, the layout of the grid, and here you have the different mitigating measures, so you can navigate through that. And again, you will see that this is also using our process that we've been configured for this type of register. So here it's risk mitigating measures. So in this case, it needs to, let's say we have one that is in the stage of being implemented. It was reviewed and it's been approved, and then to implement. And in this case, it's of course very relevant to link directly to the risk that it is intended to mitigate.
Yeah. For the quality activities on the homepage, there's multiple processes that are tied to that register.
And that's another nice thing here, that you can have in a register multiple processes. So in this case, we have 2 active, control review and QA audits, external, but there could be more. And we'll get back to that when we show you how you actually configure these registers. Like, for example, also internally in Omega, where we use onboarding. So we have one register for all the onboardings, but there are different processes depending on which company you are onboarding in or which country. It is typically the main difference.
Yeah.
So that allows for quite some flexibility. Okay, should we have a little look at how you actually configure these then?
Yes, yeah, let's do.
So I will then switch over to my own user there, which has a little bit more access than the end user that we were starting off with. So here we have this app called System Registers. We are looking now at technical queries, but here you will see that there are multiple registers. I mentioned onboardings. We have defined a register called onboarding with multiple processes tied to this. So these are predefined processes. It's a little bit different if one is onboarding in Omega in Australia compared to onboarding in US, but it's still nice to have it in the same onboarding register. So let's go to technical queries. Here we have some detailed information, the name of the app, as I mentioned, perhaps it's called RFI in another case. So, and you can have different, it might be commercial queries or other commissioning queries, whatever. And here you can also say which app to use. There are, for example, we also use the same concept for meetings. So if we have a little look at meetings, you will see that the app that this one is using is the meetings app, and the different registers can have different apps. But let's go back to our technical queries. Here you can also specify which tasks, as we saw from the end user's perspective. He had different tasks appearing, and here you can configure these. And that could be different things. It could be a web app, another app it opens, or it could be some special features that is already, of course, defined in the solution. Like
so both, then we can have any reports, or in this export selected workflows, so functions within Omega 365, but also if a customer would like to build an add-on, a dedicated function to be used.
And I think it's also important that we mention that, of course, technical queries is such a common thing that is something that will be available out of the box. So it's not like we're just going to give an empty product to our clients and they have to build it themselves. So it comes with several of these registers and processes already defined. Then you can configure them to match your exact requirements, or use it as is, of course. But you can also build your own specific registers and processes. So that is important to be aware of. Then filters also, same thing, that you can here define the different filters that will appear, who will have access, and the different properties that should show up in the grid. So yes, very flexible way of defining the register itself. Then of course, as you saw here, it's tied to the process. So if we have a look at onboardings again, we have different multiple processes. So if we go to process setup, and we can have a look at technical query here, and here we will see that we have the more details. And actually here you would specify which app to use. When I was
on the meetings one,
here you will see that there is a special app that we use for creating new meetings. So the same detail app, but a special app for creating new meetings, because then it's a little bit different information that you want to have. And we can also show that, how that looks for the end user in a few seconds. But here you define the process itself. And for those of you already using Omega 365 for defining work processes, you will recognize this. It's basically the same thing. You can define the different steps it needs to go through. Let's just move back to our technical queries. These are the steps it goes through and all the configuration options, if a step is mandatory, if you can close it before reaching the different steps, etc., etc. Who has access, everything is available there to define for the processes.
Just mention if there's questions,
yes.
You can ask them during the session, and at the end we will go through the questions. We have co-pilot Håvard that will answer some of them as we go as well, and then we'll have a see-through at the end. Properties is the same as has been in work processes.
Yeah. So here, like in this case, these are the available properties for the technical queries. Yeah. Inboxes, we support that you can send an email to an email address which initiates that process then. So that's quite nice. We have that in, let's say you have an invoice verification. You can tell the contractors, your suppliers, that send your invoices to this address, and then it will initiate the invoice verification procedures on your side. Okay. I told that I wanted to show one more thing on the end user side.
Yes, yeah. You remember what?
No? New?
Yeah, new.
Yes.
So you can look at the like quality activities where we have multiple, for example, where.
So directly from the front page, then the user can select new. Okay, this is an external audit. So then clicks on that one, and it opens this new dialog with some of the information already filled in to get a kind of easier, quick start. And as we also saw, was that it was possible to define which app to use. So for meetings, it's not natural to have this kind of style. So on meetings, if I want to register a new meeting, I will be able to get a separate app for that. So you can define these per work process.
Yep. And at the top of the page, you have scope items, which is then the uniformed register, which shows them all processes.
Yes. So all these risk mitigating measures, quality activities, technical queries, meetings, onboardings, etc., etc., it's all scope items. So if I click on scope items, I will get everything that I have access to, which is open.
Yep.
And also quick links to those that I have created, those that have been assigned to me where I have some responsibility, or those that I'm subscribing to.
Yeah.
Can also create new scope items directly from here.
This was a good session. Building your own registers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then see you next time.
Yeah.